This is Owl Talk,
a Sigma Pi podcast
featuring stories,
news, updates, and more
from the world of Sigma Pi fraternity.
We are back with more of the Owl Talk podcast. On this episode, we welcome Dr. Ted Anderson from our Zeta Eta chapter at Santa Clara University. Ted is a physical therapist and a comedian, so I want to talk about how those two mix together. But really, for our discussion later today, he's the executive producer of a comedy television show called Mokumoku. By the way, you can watch season 1 of Mokumoku right now because it's streaming on Tubi and on Amazon Prime Video. We're going to talk a bit about what it's like to work in the entertainment industry today. And what I'm really looking forward to hearing about, Ted's going to tell us what it's like to produce a show locally in Hawaii, which is where this series takes place. We'll also talk about his career path and, of course, Sigma Pi fraternity. And with that, Ted, welcome to the Owl Talk podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is great.
Awesome. Look, I always like to start these episodes with just an opportunity for the guests to talk about their Sigma Pi story. But I like for those stories to go back to the beginning. So where did you grow up? How did you get to Santa Clara University? And what brought you to one of the strongest chapters in Sigma Pi fraternity, the Zeta Eta chapter?
It was actually kind of crazy. So I went to an all-boys Catholic school, Jesuit high school in Sacramento. Grew up in the Sierra Foothills, which is gold country. And Santa Clara, my high school was a feeder school for Santa Clara, so went down there, was planning on doing science and something maybe with healthcare. I went to propose some retreats for campus ministry. I had no intention of being a part of a fraternity whatsoever, and campus ministry turned me down. I ran out of food money the week of Rush, and so I went out to Rush to get some free food, and some guy goes, what do you do? And I'm like, I design retreats for the campus ministry, but they didn't want any of them. And because they ever thought of being able to do a fraternity? I said, no, I don't have the money for it. And he goes, we need someone to design retreats for us. We'll cover you for scholarship. And I went, all right, touche, salesman, I'm in. And so I ended up doing a whole bunch of, we did some wilderness retreats, did all kinds of cool stuff. I did a bunch of firsts that no one had ever done before. We rented out an entire hotel in Yosemite for our orchid ball. And it was the first time that the park in its 200 years, 100 years had ever rented out a full thing to a group, and it was to a Sigma Pi chapter. And the town that we went to that's actually in the park had a whole town meeting about us being there and whether or not it was going to be safe. And they all decided that they were young once and that they wanted to see the party. And so we got invited in and stayed at the Wawona Hotel on the far side of the park. Yeah, man. And so no, that's how I ended up in the fraternity. And they just gave me the opportunity to, it was like my playground. Anything fun or creative I wanted to do, the chapter encouraged me. And the other thing too is that Sigma Pi chapter versus the other fraternities on campus, the brothers were very low key in a lot of ways. And what you didn't realize is the president of the student council was a Sigma Pi. The head of the newspaper, the head of the yearbook, the head of this, the head of that. I ended up becoming the head student trainer of the training room. The guy before me was the head student trainer of the training room. So all of the leadership on campus kind of was a part of the fraternity. So it was a very diverse, eclectic group. It was a really cool group of guys to be around and kind of grow up in between.
Yeah, all of the relevant major campus leaders found their way into Sigma Pi.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have known it. Their brothership and their commitment was shown in their actions. You know what I mean? It was nothing blaring through a megaphone. It was nothing crazy. It was show up, get the work done, and make something better. And that really resonated with me. That meant a lot to me then, and it still does now.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I'm sure you know, but Zeta Eta chapter remains one of the strongest chapters in all of the fraternity from coast to coast. So lots to be proud of there.
Yeah, it was. We won some big awards while I was there, and then I was just checking back in a few years ago, and it's we were still doing so well, and it's just Father Art Liebscher is out there still leading and guiding those guys, and he is just such a phenomenal man to be involved in the brothers' lives, and they're very lucky to have that coming up and through.
Amen. So if we could, I would love to spend a few minutes talking about your career path to becoming a physical therapist. This is, of course, after you graduate from Santa Clara University. I know we have a lot of undergraduates who listen to this podcast, and many of them, particularly this time of the year, they're thinking about, hey, what should I do when I graduate? What's some fields I might be interested in? So maybe you could share with us for a minute or two about your career path, and then I want to jump into Mokumoku.
Yeah, sure. So I had planned on going to medical school, and at the time to get into medical school, you needed some health related job, side job. And then you needed a science degree. I was a organic and biochem, which I liked in theory to study, but actually doing the work I did not like. I spent most of my hours in the training room, reading, studying anatomy, doing that kind of thing. And when it came time to apply for medical school, the head of the soccer team's father was the dean at Marquette University. And he came up to me and he said, have you thought about PT school? And I said, no. And he said, why? And I was like, I don't know. I was just planning on medical school. I kind of want doctor in front of my name. I have put all the prerequisites here. I don't have the extra year of prerequisites for medical school. I mean, for physical therapy school, I'm studying for the MCAT, just all these reasons. And he said, look, our program is one of the first doctorate programs in the country. He said, if you love what you do and you don't want to do anything else, why would you go be a physician? You spend an hour right now with patients. If you become a physician, it's going to be a max 8 minutes, unless you're a surgeon, but they're going to be unconscious the whole time. And he said, and all of our prereqs are the same as medical school, so you would only have to take 1 or 2 extra classes. And so I applied. It was the only school I applied to. I had no idea that I was going to Milwaukee. I had no idea what that was going to be like. I went out and visited the school, and I ended up getting in, and it turned out it was one of the top programs in the country, and I had no idea. And so I headed off to Milwaukee, and I had amazing faculty. I had amazing experience out there, and I just kind of fell into it. And I took a chance on a job, and I fell in love with it, and it just kept picking me up and guiding me from there. I kind of let things happen, and yeah, that's it. And I moved out here after I graduated and started. Well, I was in California for 2 years, and then just before the real estate bubble popped, I moved out here to start a practice, and now we're on 3 islands, and I travel between the islands. I'm on all kinds of leadership stuff, and as a field, it just keeps revealing new things to do that I never thought were possible when I was just entering graduate school. Right? Like there's so many things that I can do, both like in the clinic. I have a robot. I can put someone with a spinal cord injury in, and it walks them down the hall. Like I get to play with a robot for work, man. That's insane. And and I live on an island in the middle of nowhere. And I sometimes my commute is taking a ferry to my other clinic and watching whales jump from December to May. And all because I took a chance. You know what I mean? Like all just because I was open to that opportunity. And so that's what I would tell all the young guys out there is take a chance, go out there and just kind of see where the path takes you, but take some risks. Nothing's permanent forever, and you will find all kinds of amazing things that will end up in your lap that wouldn't have come from playing it safe.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And that DPT credential, the doctorate, is so popular and valuable. We have a couple of the young guys from my own chapter here at Monmouth University that are pursuing their DPTs right now, and they're so engaged in that work, and they love it. They find it so fulfilling to help people recover from injuries or that nagging, frustration that a client has, and it's really, really good work.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I love. I'll be honest. It's one of the lowest paid for the investment for medical careers. Like, I'm not going to pretend anybody's going to get rich being a PT, but it's a vocation. Like, I love going to work. I love seeing my patients. There's nothing else I'd rather do. And being a part of their daily lives and consistently is amazing. And I can shift. Sometimes I do sports. Sometimes I'm doing ortho, or I'm in the neuro clinic and I'm working with people after strokes and major accidents. And then I'm at another clinic and I'm doing wound care. And then I'm staying at the Four Seasons treating employees at the resort. And so I get to do all these amazing things. And it's a great degree for opening up possibilities.
Absolutely. Hey, maybe one more detour before we move on to
Yeah.
Mokumoku. stand-up comedy, huh?
Yeah.
It's such a rare profession, and it could be such a rewarding one. Joe Rogan talks about on his podcast how there may only be 1,000, maybe 2,000 stand-up comedians in the whole world, and not a really common option for folks. So, what brought you to comedy?
I would just hold court and tell jokes. I did that in the training room, and then when I got out of school and into the clinic, I would just tell jokes in the clinic, make everybody laugh. It puts patients at ease, and I would start to get little sets together. And then finally, I was told for years, "You should be a stand-up. You should be a stand-up." And someone dragged me to an open mic, and I've been doing it for I think 15 years now.
Wow.
And I've gotten to tour a little bit. I have a family, so I don't tour as much. When the kids get older, I'll probably hit the road. I've hit the road a little bit, but and it's really it's fun. You have to be comfortable with failure. I think that's the biggest thing. It's no one's inherently funny, and the guy you think is inherently funny shows up, does great the first time. All of his friends come. He thinks he's the biggest thing ever. Comes back, his friends aren't in the room. Does the same jokes. Nobody laughs. You never see him again. You have to be willing to do the grind. You have to be willing to get up there, tell jokes that aren't funny, tell jokes that you think are hilarious that nobody laughs at, and you got to find your own voice. And there's that grind because it's just you and 100 people, right? It's you and 50 people. Sometimes it's you and 5 people. How do you make 5 people laugh? That's way harder than an arena. And so being able to just kind of dive in and do that is something that also appealed to me. That challenge of it, of trying to get that joke or you do a joke, you write a bit and nobody laughs at any of it. And then you throw a random line in there and everybody loses their mind and you go, okay, I have to go back and rework on this from the beginning because what I thought was going to work didn't work and everything's wrong. And there's that almost chess component that goes to it. That's just, it's kept me coming back forever. And I really enjoy it.
It's fascinating. It's a fascinating career. I have to ask now because I'm always curious when I get a chance to talk to comedians. Have you ever had like that one moment where you just killed? I mean, everyone went nuts. And then, of course, the other question, which is, what was the biggest bomb you've had out there?
I have all kinds of memories of just killing. There's been backyards where I've slayed. There's a big theater here that holds 1,000 plus people, and hearing your voice come through on the good system, because like in a bar mic, your voice gets distorted. No, this is your voice bouncing off the walls back at you, and when you tell the joke, there's this delay as the joke moves through the room, and then it comes back in a wave of laughter, and it's not like an explosion. It's this thing that builds and then just kind of pushes over the top of you, and those times of crushing feel amazing. The other times are handling hecklers. For a long time, when I started, people didn't know how to behave in comedy out here because there weren't any clubs. So my whole job is I'd sit off stage and I was the heckler. The heckler handler, and they'd put me on stage and I would just roast hecklers until they left or shut up. And getting getting a room that's turned where people are just upset and the rhythm of the show is going wrong and somebody just keeps ruining it, and then shutting that person down, getting everybody to laugh, getting their attention back on the stage, and then stepping off and waiting to do it again was amazing. As far as bombs, comedians way love bombs than they more crushing. Like I would rather.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we love to watch each other bomb too. That's the basic. We love to watch each other bomb with material we know works. Like we watch someone do a set that is a great, well crafted set, and the crowd was having none of it, and we love to watch that. That's better than a bad set because you're like, they can't win, and then you're watching them try to dig themselves out. So I've had a few. One bomb was early on that I loved. Was the room was dead silent. I was going through these jokes. I knew they wouldn't work. And finally a guy stood up and he just went, "No." And then he sat back down. And
Oh, that's great.
The other bomb that I had really wasn't a bomb. It was just such a bizarre situation. There's an odd amount of Russian and Ukrainian housewives in Maui, and especially in certain neighborhoods. And so this lady brought me over, a bunch of the comedians over for her baby shower. And so they bring us in the backyard, and they're like, you guys sit out here. And there's no water, there's no nothing, there's food. We can't touch the food, it's for the party. The women aren't helping the very pregnant woman do it. In their culture, the pregnant woman puts on the shower. So she's made all this food. She's running around sweating. We're sitting outside. All we have is a garden hose for water, and the 4 comedians are sharing a cup. She goes, the first 3 comedians go in, they bomb. I come in, and they hand me the mic, and it's hooked up to one of those little kid karaoke boxes. Like, it's just like barely a voice amplifier. And I'm sitting in this dark living room with no light on and women that speak about a handful of English and trying to get them to laugh as the sun sets and there is a sweaty, another pregnant woman doing all the work. And I just remembering, this is the most unbelievably awful situation I've ever been in. And then what got funny is 2 or 3 of them got my number, and then I started performing like a baby shower circuit for like a year or 2. And so now which is good because I had just had my kids, so I had a bunch of baby jokes and kids jokes, which worked well. But yeah, no, I was like on a baby mama circuit for like 2 years. Like, and I was just, did you get the guy? Yeah. So then show up and do the baby jokes, and then off, make a few $100 and off I go.
That's it. The baby shower comedian guy.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the main event. Let's talk about Mokumoku, the television show that you're the executive producer for, and it's out there in Hawaii. I watched the first episode on Tubi. I loved it. I thought it was funny. I'm a fan of Kimo and Peely now. I think they have good interaction with each other. Maybe tell our listeners a little bit about how the idea for the show came together, and then maybe you can talk about your role in weaving all those pieces together.
Yeah, so Kavika Hoke is him and Jonathan Melikides are the 2 main writers. Kavika became a friend of mine through this. Actually, Peely Chino is a stand-up that I came up with. We started comedy on Maui together. We started Power Up Comedy. It was the first traveling comedy group. And he had this big opportunity to be on this TV show, and it lost funding. And he kind of did one of those vague book posts where it's like, sometimes things don't work out, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, dude, what's going on? Called him. He goes, we just lost our funding. They're going to shut it down. So we brought it in. I met Kavika Hoke, and he and I instantly became friends and hit it off great. And it's kind of his story. He is really Kimo in this, in that, growing up, grew up partially Maui, partially San Diego. How much is he Native Hawaiian? How much is he American? Where do those things meet together? What's his purpose? How does he get his life together? It's very reflective on kind of who he is and his friends that are around him. And so we got brought in initially as kind of the financiers for the pilot, but then they discovered we had a bunch of business knowledge, and a lot of the things that are done in entertainment are not, let's say, legal. Not tax appropriate. And so we started helping them build out their HR systems. And look, I know you guys want to do this, and you think this is better than how you were treated before. Because like some of the productions out here, there's one that's called Paradise City. It's Bruce Willis and John Travolta, and a bunch of the people worked on it. And like Kavika didn't even get a 1099. He got paid under the table, and his line item was a truck. It was an F-150 on the lot. So they were like, hey, we're going to pay people with 1099s. We're going to do this. And we were like, no, that's still illegal. They have to be W-9s. They have to be this. So we started, our role as his executive producer was to kind of build out proper business functioning for the company. And then also to go out and find other investors. And that's what we're doing for season 2 right now, is we're in the process of trying to find other investors that want to put in for this. And so that was our kind of the business end. And then I got to play a small bit part as Billy, the OPC, which is those are the guys that sell timeshares in places.
Yeah.
And then now on the second season, I've been helping a little bit more with storyline, still working investors, still working the business part, working on distribution. We've been working with Relativity Media to get bigger distribution and more coverage. So there's a lot of business aspects that we got pulled into. I feel like I answered what you said and then just went way off. I wanted to talk more about it. But that was good. We could talk about any one of these issues. Let's talk about distribution. So as I mentioned before,
I watched the first episode on Tubi. I thought it was great. I mean, streamed very, very well for me. I had no problems. Talk about distribution, what it's like to get a show on Tubi, but you're also on Amazon Prime Video, so I'd love to know about that as well.
Yeah, so distribution is actually the hardest thing out here, because if you're an independently put together thing, you need to do all of your quality control. We call it QC. So everything has to have formatting, and I am totally blanking on the company we went through right now. I'm totally it just totally switched through my head. But basically, what you do is you get everything, the film rate, all of the aspects of the video together for quality control, and then you submit it. And each of the different streamers has each of the different streamers has their own quality thing. So you need to film with a certain camera. So we had a certain camera we had to film with, and they have a list, and these are the only cameras you can submit on a given streamer for. So you have to meet all those quality control things going in, and then once you've met them, you have to knock a bunch of other out in the formatting, whether or not you have subtitles, how many languages you put it in, and those kinds of things. You put it out there, and then what happens is all these different streamers start picking you up, and they can put you in their cabinet. The issue is you're not necessarily curated. So we are on Amazon Prime, we're on Tubi, we're also on something called Cheetah TV that is owned by like an ex female kickboxer
Wow.
who has her
Okay.
own streaming station, and we're the only comedy show that's on there for some reason. And so they can go, any of those guys can go pick off. So they saw us, they liked us, they put us there. Our numbers look good. But the problem is what you really need is you need that marketing budget to pull it forward, or you need the views from somewhere else. So like if all the Sigma Pi guys out there go out and watch Mokumoku from across the country, it boosts our views, which increases our curation. So that's the hardest part about self-distributing is it's the marketing budget and then getting some sort of groundswell to pull it forward and on to the next level. But if you do the work and you literally read the manual, you can distribute on your own pretty much anything you want.
Wow. Wow. And this is what you're managing for this project.
Yeah, so Kavika literally was, because it happened after the fire, we lost kind of everything, right? So Kavika is literally sitting on my couch with my laptop, and we were editing the whole show from the months of like roughly late October, November, and into December. I've seen every episode at least 100 times in 100 different ways, going through camera angles and cutting and everything else, and getting all of that right so we can send it off.
Yeah. And so you just brought up another piece of this that I want to talk about because it's a really compelling part of the overall Mokumoku story. So for our listeners who may not be aware of the timeline here, you finished wrapping season 1, I believe October 2023. But
Mhm.
there were those devastating Maui fires in August 2023. So what happened with that? How did those fires impact you and your team? And what was everyone's response?
So it was hard. So you got what everybody might not know is fires happen on the west side quite often. About 5 years before this fire, there was a fire that encroached real close to the town. There was always little burns. It was getting windy that day. We kind of middle in between things, and there was word that there was fire up there, and it was like, should we go up? Should we cut for the day? And finally, yeah, let's pack it in. And so we packed it in early, and we have a bunch of crew that lives up on that side. Yeah, Jonathan Milikitis, his house was right at the edge of the burn zone. It didn't go, but it got really bad smoke damage. But he went up, they drove up, and they got stopped. There's a road that goes up to that side of the island. There's only one way in and out, basically. And he got stopped in Ma'alai at the parking lot, and they wouldn't let him through. And he was able to talk to his wife, who was out running next to the beach with her kids, trying to get away from the fire. And they couldn't find the daughter, and the phone cut off, and he had to sit in that parking lot for 48 hours with another crew. They didn't know if their house was gone, any of that. So it was very traumatic for all of us because we're all checking in. Nobody can get a hold of anybody. Nobody knows what happened. Even Junior, one of our guys that was on the crew, he was getting phone calls asking him if he was willing to sell his property while he was stuck in that parking lot. So people were already vulturing in. They were looking at who owned property, and he was getting cell phone calls while he didn't even know if his house survived or his family
Unbelievable.
And so the amount of dark stuff that happened was, people say, oh, why did they tell people to stop coming to Hawaii? Because as soon as they opened up, tourists were walking through the ruins and where their bodies still on the ground. There was some macabre, dark stuff going on. And so what we did is we shut down production. We were at this property that had the house on it that when you watch a show, you'll see the house and there's a barn in the background. And those were production studios. And the cast and crew turned that over and we became a gathering station for rapid response. And so we were collecting food, clothing. And then as soon as they opened up, we started truckloads going up. But there was also, what people forget is there was also several other fires. There was a fire up country in Kula. There was one that was pushing down the hill to Kihei. There's the Palauea fire. And then there was like a smaller one by the airport. Like, so the island was burning everywhere. And it took a while to get all of them out. And we were getting things together. And then what else was happening was no one was allowed up there. The National Guard came in, wouldn't let anybody up there. And Maui people, we don't listen to rules real well. So we were doing dead drops like we were moving drugs. We would go pull into the Maui Ocean Center and everybody would have their masks on like it was COVID. And truck would pull up. We'd drop in diapers and food. They would jump out with their masks on, load up the back with the supplies we brought, then head off down south to the boat ramp, load the boat at the boat ramp up, go around the blockade, pull up into Ka'anapali, which is north of where the fires were, onto the beach, unload the stuff that got there, and then drive it back down because the survivors weren't getting enough supplies.
Wow.
And so that's how we were getting the stuff that we gathered both from Mokumoku. And then I'm also a part of a theater down here. Pro Arts Theater was a drop point. My PTs were making food with, World Market. And so they were making sandwiches on their off hours. Then once it opened back up, I was doing physical therapy for the survivors and assessing for canes. And they were in the hotels. There's some hotels I can't go back into. It breaks my heart every time I go, into the Hyatt. I have flashbacks.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of rallied around each other and started supporting each other. And we did that. And then we picked up filming again once everything kind of had settled enough in October, because we only had a few more scenes left. Like, we just had a little bit. And we're able to, and the other thing was a lot of people that were in the fire just wanted to do anything but talk about and be in the fire. So a lot of the guys that were involved were like, hey, can we do, like, even Whalers Village that sat there was open. And after they opened, like, locals, we would go up there and hang out. One, just to like kind of support jobs, but because there's people in the shelters that were going to work because they didn't want to be in the shelter anymore.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to sit and think about how much they lost. So you go to work and you just hang out with people up on the west side in these touristy spots. And then Kavika, the showrunner, actually is a big social advocate. And so they did like a camp-in protest on Kaanapali Beach because people had lost their homes and they weren't finding a place for them. And so they dug out this huge thing and had a row of tents. So he was supporting that for Lahaina Strong. And then I would go up there and support him. And I was digging out stuff and moving stuff around there as well. So the community really came together. So as much as dark stuff happened, there was a lot of just really bright lights that came through. And you can see that in Mokumoku. All those people were involved, and everything shut down and we rallied. And that's just such a Maui thing. We are, no matter how far apart we are, we all recognize we're on an island and we need each other. And when it push comes to shove, it all shuts down and we take care of one another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really a story of, I don't want to say community defiance there, but definitely resilience when, you're, and I love that. I love when a community looks and sees the resources that they're getting are not sufficient enough. They say, we're going to make this work.
I honestly, I hate to say it, but the Red Cross and FEMA made things exponentially worse. The stories I have of, FEMA jacked up the rents because they wanted to find a place for survivors, which works for a town that has a tornado and has other towns for people to move to. But when you're on an island, there's a fixed amount of housing. And so what happened is when people's leases went up. The landlord would increase the lease, double, triple it if they could, and so then survivors would move in, which is good for them, but other people would move out. So, I mean, my physical therapy company I lost half my company right after the first 6 months of the fire, and everybody's lease went up. I lost half my company.
Wow.
And so and then the Red Cross changed their mind on what did they want to do any given day. And so a lot of the resilience was just us going, we know how to take care of our people. We know how to take care of our friends. Let's just go do it. You know what I mean? Like, we're not waiting around for you guys. We appreciate your effort, but we're just going to go do the thing.
Yeah, and you make real positive impacts doing that because people know their communities better. You know, you know the people better.
And I mean, there is an aspect too, especially with the Native Hawaiian community. They've been taken advantage of in so many ways from outsiders that they don't. There's a certain way you talk. There's a certain way you present yourself. There's a certain way you enter and you ask questions and you get to know before you act. You build bonds before you do things, and then you make very quick decisions. You know, we say you talk story and then it's done. And so they weren't showing a good amount of respect to the locals that knew what needed to be done and how it needed to be done. And they weren't bringing them in properly. And so everybody just shrugged our shoulders and went, all right, dead drops of diapers in the Maui Ocean Center. We're getting this done. And Molokai, the other island, Molokai, they were loading up deer. They were going out and shooting deer, big hunting island, and they were just loading up the meat into power boats, sending boats and jet skis onto the shore, unloading the meat and going back and getting some more. It was quite fantastic.
That's a team effort if there ever was one. Yeah, I love the story about resilience, and it's really a great lead into one of the final kind of questions that I want to ask you about, which is the fraternity's slogan. It's find your purpose. Now, you've had an incredibly successful career. You got great success with Mokumoku, helping out the local community, like we just talked about. How do you think Sigma Pi fraternity and maybe your undergraduate years with Zeta Eta chapter helped you find your purpose?
It gave me opportunities. I think being able to step outside your comfort zone, try stuff you wouldn't, do stuff you wouldn't. I think Sigma Pi was just so important with that, and also put you next to people that you wouldn't normally. That's not your crew. That's not someone you'd hang out with, and giving you something to have in common with them is really important. And I think sometimes, I don't know if all the time, but I think sometimes that people think that lesson is limited to the fraternity, and then when they get out, they have this amazing fraternity experience, and nothing compares. And I think the fraternity and those lessons are baby steps. Because you're always going to be around different people that you normally wouldn't be around with in your jobs, in your church, in your community. And how do you build bonds and experiences with those people and build a larger community will help you find that purpose. The fraternity is training you in those baby steps of how to be a part of something larger and build bonds in bigger communities. And when you're a part of a community, your purpose will stand out to you. And taking those risks will help your purpose to stand out for you. And I think that that's something that Sigma Pi did in an extraordinary way, because it's something that I never wanted. Like I thought I was going to be a GDI. I didn't think I was going to. That was not on my bingo card at all. And yet it was something that was very transformative. And they're lessons that I've taken far beyond Sigma Pi. And I think to the guys out there, if you're listening, like, look at the guy to your right and left of you and think if you would have been his friend before you entered the fraternity, and be honest with yourself. Would you have been around this person enough to build a bond? And if the answer is no, that really is the thing that you need to take to a bigger place, is look around anywhere you go and go, yeah, this guy probably might not be my friend, but let's hang out, let's share some experiences together, and let's build something bigger. And I think if you do that and take those chances, both with people and opportunities, you will find not just one purpose, but many.
Amen. Great words. What comes up next for you? What comes up next for Mokumoku? What's on the horizon?
So we are in pre-production for season 2.
Awesome.
We are writing. We've got 7 polished scripts of 13. We are looking for, if there's any alumni out there, we are looking for investors for the final bit because we're independently done. And we are working on sealing a deal with a larger streamer to be curated. And that's what we're working with Relativity Media for. So that's kind of the direction that's going in, and all the pre-pro and shooting locations and getting permits. And we're kind of just getting up with that. And then also getting season 1. So if you guys haven't seen season 1, getting season 1 out there, share the videos, go to the Facebook page, the Instagram, Mokumoku, MOKU. There's also a Japanese band named Mokumoku. We're not that one. And so that's kind of what's going on that. For me personally, I got 3 girls that are growing up. I'm trying to keep them in school, and they're doing well. And then for the physical therapy company, it just keeps growing. We keep taking care of people. And for the comedy, I've got a show tonight at 7:30. So that's what's going on there.
Good luck. So
Thank
for
you.
our listeners, again, Mokumoku, it's streaming right now. It's on Tubi. It's on Amazon Prime Video. You check Mokumoku out on Instagram, on social media, Facebook. What about you, Ted? If folks want to find you online, where should they go?
Let's see. You can find me as Ted Anderson Comedian. I think I'm at Doc Titanium on a few things. Those are the best places to find me. I don't post a lot of sets, mostly because I'll be honest. I got to see patients in the morning, and I don't want them knowing the jokes I'm going to tell them at work when they get there. So
There you go.
Got to leave some mystery. But yeah, no, you can find me there. You can also find Venture Physical, or our Venture Physical Therapy is venturerehab.com. And we're also all over the socials. So you can go see whatever we're doing there.
Awesome. Yeah. Look, this was awesome. Before we go, Ted, do you have any final parting words to leave our listeners with?
Hey, if you guys are in Maui, look me up. I always love taking guys around and showing them the good spots, and be good to one another. Keep in touch with one another. That's what I would tell you guys.
Great. Thank you for being a guest on the Owl Talk podcast.
Thank you so much, Joe. This was awesome.
You can stay up to date on the latest in the world of Sigma Pi fraternity by following us across social media. We are at Sigma Pi, all one word, on Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and Facebook. On YouTube, we are at Sigma Pi Fraternity, also one word. Remember, you can always get the latest information on Sigma Pi Fraternity at sigmapi.org. Thank you to everyone who listened to this episode, and we look forward to you joining us for the next Owl Talk podcast.